Hi there, today we're going to go through the GL familiarization paper for maths. I'd recommend you try it on your own first before you watch this video, and I'll give you some helpful tips and tricks so that when you do the paper for yourself, you'll get the best score possible. Let's get started with question number 1. What is this number in figures? So we've got 5,000, which would write as 5 with 3 zeros, 100, which is just 1 with 2 zeros, and 9 on its own. If we added up all of these together, we'd get 5,109, which would be E. If I look at the rest of these numbers, A would be 5,190, that would be 5,019, 519, and this one, if I put a comma, I normally count 1, 2, 3, and I'd put a comma there, that one would be 51,009. Question number 2. We've got a boat that stands for 12 ships. Look at this table. In dock A, I have one boat, so that is going to be 12 ships there. For B, I don't need B, but let's just work it out if we did need to. That would be 12, and that's half of a ship, so we've got 12 add 6, which would be 18. And for C, that would be just 6 because it's half of a ship. How many more ships are in dock A than dock C? So we're comparing A with C. So 12 minus 6 would be 6, which is E. Question 3. What is the value of the 7 in this number? Let's work from the right hand side. So the 0 is my units, that's my tens, that's my hundreds, and that's my thousands. So the 7 is 7 thousands, which is A. Question 4. The hills are at 3, 4. So this is just reminding us of how we read coordinates. We read along the corridor first, and then we read up the stairs. So if we go along the corridor to 3 and up to 4, we can see the hills are there. The lighthouse is at, let's first find where the lighthouse is. So I can see it's over here. I need to go along the corridor to 1. So it'd be 1 with, and if I go up the stairs, I go up to 6. So it'd be 1, 6. And that would be A. Question 5. What is the missing number in the sequence? Let's just see how is this sequence changing from term to term. So from the first to the second one, I'm taking away 10 and I'm adding 1, so I'm taking away 9 every time. Taking away 10, adding 1, so take away 9. And I'll think of it the same way, take away 10 and add 1, so that's going to be 365 plus 1, which would be 366. So it would be E. And if I just check this, if I take away 10 and add 1, I would get 357. Question 6. How many of the triangles will fill the hexagon? So I can see if I've got one triangle here, I could fit that triangle over there, and each of those triangles are going to take up one of the sides of that hexagon. And how many sides does a hexagon have? Well, it has 6 sides, so that would be D. Question 7. Iveta was 1.43 meters tall. She grew 2 centimeters more. How tall was she then in meters? The issue that we have here is we have one of our units in meters and we have our other unit in centimeters. So either we want them both as meters or we want them both as centimeters. So it's up to you what you'd like to do. For me, I'd rather change this to meters just because all of our answers are in meters. So I know 1 meter is the same as 100 centimeters. So that's just a conversion that you need to remember. So for us to convert from centimeters to meters, I divide by 100. And if I do 2 divided by 100, that'd be 0.02 meters. So 1.43, add 0.02, which would just be 1.45. So that would be A. Question 8. What fraction of the whole shape is shaded? So we want the amount that's shaded over the total amount of triangles. So total space. So let's count how many are shaded. We've got 1, 2, 3. So 3 is going to go on the top. And we have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. We have 3 ninths. If I look at all of my answers, I don't see 3 ninths. So that means I need to simplify this. What number goes into both 3 and 9? That'd be 3. So I divide the top by 3 and I divide the bottom by 3. That would give me 1/3, which would be B. Question 9. Write the correct number in the box. I've got 123 divided by something, which gives me itself. So what number, when I divide it by that, would always give me itself? That would be 1. So here the answer would be 1, but let's just think what would happen if we did the other ones. If I do 123 divided by itself, that would give me 1. 123 divided by 0, well, you can't do that, so that would just be undefined. For 123 divided by 0.1, I'm thinking, how many 0.1s fit into this? I know 10 0.1s fit into 1, so that means I'm timesing this by 10. It's almost as if I'm doing 123 divided by 1/10. This could be another way that you think about it. How many tenths would fit into this? You're just timesing by the denominator, so it would be 1230. If I was doing D, 123 divided by 0.5, which is the same as 123 divided by a half, I'm just timesing by 2. If I've got a unit fraction like C, 1 over 10, I just multiply by my denominator. If I have 1 over 2, I just multiply by the denominator. So that one would be 246 if I had it. Question 10, A minus 9 is equal to 10. So if you're ever unsure, you could just substitute each of these answers and just figure it out. So I could put in 19, take away 9, and if it gave me 10, that would be correct. Or 1, take away 9, and I would just check all of them to see. The better way to do it, so that you're not having to check all of them, is just think, what is happening to my A? Right now, we're taking away 9, so we need to do the opposite of that. We're going to add 9 to the left-hand side, we're going to add 9 to the right-hand side. On the left-hand side, because we've got minus 9 and 9, that will disappear, and 10 and 9 would give me 19. So the answer would be 19 there. Question 11. We've got an empty jar which has 700 milliliters and a jug holding 1 liter of water. Let's just think, how much does 1 liter equal in milliliters? So this is another conversion that you need to remember. 1 liter is the same as 1000 milliliters. And the way that you could remember it is if you think of a small can of Coke or Sprite or whatever, that would be 330 mils. And if you had a small bottle, that would be 500 mils. And a slightly bigger bottle would be 1000 milliliters or 1 liter. So that's one way that you could remember it, just thinking about what types of drinks that you normally drink. The jug holds 1 liter of water and the jar is filled from the jug. So we're pouring from the jug into the jar. How much water will be left in the jug? So if we're pouring 1000 milliliters into here, obviously this one is going to get full up. So we're doing 1000 take away 700, and that'll tell us how much is left over. So that'll be 300 milliliters. So can we see 300 milliliters anywhere here? So I can't see that here, so I need to change that into liters and we'll see what we get. If we look back at our conversion, to get from milliliters to liters, I need to divide by 1000. So I'm going to divide this number by 1000. 300 divided by 1000, which would give me, so these two will disappear, and I need to move it back one more place, so it's going to be 0.3 liters. So the answer would be A. Question 12. This chart shows how Kai spent his spare time last week. We've got the number of hours along the y-axis and we've got the activities along the x-axis. How many hours did he spend out of doors? And they've told us which activities out of doors. So those are playing football, so we'll highlight that one, fishing and cycling. So we just need to read off all of these numbers and then we're going to add them up. So we can see playing football is between 2 and 3, so that is 2.5. Fishing is at 2 and cycling is at 3. So 2 add 3 is 5. 5 add 2.5 is going to be 7.5. So 7.5 hours, which is C. Question 13. Wendy saved £2.50 a week. How many weeks did it take her to save £20? The way I would think about this is if I scale this up, so I know £2.50 is equal to 1 week. How much would it be in 2 weeks? To make it a little bit easier, well, I've doubled on the right hand side, so I'm going to double on the left hand side, so that would be 5. How many times does £5 go into £20? So I've multiplied by 4 there, so I need to multiply by 4 there, so that would be 8 weeks. So the answer would be B. Another way you could do this is thinking 20 divided by 2.5. So this might be a little bit tricky, so I'm going to write it like a fraction, 20 over 2.5. Right now my denominator has a decimal inside it, so I want to get rid of this decimal. So there's 2 ways I could get rid of it. I could either double it, if I know that 2.5 doubled is 5, or another way I could get rid of it is if I times both the top and the bottom by 10. So I'm timesing the top and the bottom by 10. I'm not changing the number. I'm just making it easier to work with. So then I've got 200 divided by 25. And then if I do my 25 times tables up to 200, that would also give me an answer of 8. So 2 ways you could do that question. Question 14. How many small squares will fit into this large rectangle? So this is an area question. How do we work out area of rectangles and squares? All we do is we multiply the base by the height. So the area of this square, 1 times 1, will be 1 centimeter squared. For the rectangle, what would the area of that one be? That'd be 6 times by 3, which would be 18. So that's going to be 18 centimeters squared. We're trying to think how many of these squares fit into this rectangle. So we're doing 18 divided by 1, which would be 18. Question 15. Which of these digital alarm clocks show that is 7:15 in the evening? So quarter past means it's 15 minutes past the hour, and it's 7, so it's 7:15, and it's in the evening, so that means it's PM. And I can't see 7:15 PM because all of these are in 24 hours, so I need to change this to a 24-hour clock. Easiest way to do that is I'm just going to add 12 to my hours, so that gives me 19:15. Do I have that? Yes, that would be D, which is 19:15. Question 16. Matthew thinks of a number. He multiplies his number by 2, then he subtracts 4, and the answer is 10. What number did Matthew first think of? Whenever I see a question like this, thinks of a number, I normally read from the end and I work backwards. So the answer is 10, and he subtracted 4. So I think, what's the opposite of subtracting 4? I'm going to add 4 to that number, which gives me 14. He multiplies his number by 2. So what's the opposite of multiplying by 2? It's dividing by 2. So I'm going to do 14 divided by 2, which is 7. So that's B. Another way you could do this, which is good if it's a little bit more complicated, you could use algebra. So for the number, we could use the letter x, or any letter. He multiplies it by 2 to give me 2x. He takes away 4, and it gives me 10. And then I would just solve this equation. So 2x would equal 14, and x would equal 7. So you could do either way for that question. Question 17. A train left at 10:20 and it arrived at 11:15. How long did the journey take in minutes? So the way I would think about this, if I've got 10:20 here and I've got 11:20 here, just to make it a bit easier, from there to there is going to be 1 hour or 60 minutes. But I arrived at 11:15, so I need to go back to 11:15. So I'm taking away 5. So I'm doing 60, take away 5, which is 55. Question 18. We've got some information about some membership prices. Mrs. Ward wants to join Heritage with her 3 children aged 10, 12, and 15. How much must she pay? So let's look at all of these memberships and think which one would she fit into. So she's got 3 children and 1 adult. So it's not going to be an individual membership. It won't be a joint membership because that's for 2 adults. 2 adults and children under 18. So that one could work, but she's only got 1 adult, so that we don't need that one. Family with 1 adult and children 18, that would be that one. So we're looking for £46.50. We don't have to do any working out for this one. We just need to understand the different memberships. So that would be E. Question 19. About how much does an ordinary mug hold? So if you think about a little small spoon, a small teaspoon, that would hold 5 milliliters of liquid. So you could think of that as like a reference. So a mug is going to have a little bit more than that, and it's going to have more than 30 at least, because that'll only be 6 spoons of drink. That won't be enough. So my answer for this one would be B, so 300 milliliters. You could also think that 330 milliliters is the same size as a normal can of drink. So it's going to be around that much. 3 liters, 30 liters, and 300 liters, they're way too big. They're kind of the sizes of the amount of water you might have in a sink or a bath, or maybe even a swimming pool for E. Question 20. Which of these is not a quadrilateral? So what is a quadrilateral? One way that you could remember this is the word quad just means 4. So if you think about a quad bike, that would have 4 wheels, so a quadrilateral has 4 sides. So let's find which of these are quadrilaterals. Well, this has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so that would be no. So it would be A. The answer is A. What shape is that? It's 5-sided, so that would be a pentagon. This one is just a irregular quadrilateral because all of the sides are different and all of the angles are different. That's a square. That's a rectangle because we have two pairs of equal sides. A square has four equal sides and equal angles, and same with a rectangle. Two pairs of equal sides and all of the angles are going to be 90. This last shape would be a trapezium. And the way that you recognize trapezia are that they have one pair of parallel sides. If you look at a rectangle, they have two pairs of parallel sides. And same with a square, but a trapezium has one pair of parallel sides. Question 21. Here is part of a train timetable. A train leaves East Croydon at 23:27. So let's find that train. East Croydon at 23:27, which is that train there. How long does it take to get to Victoria? So Victoria is here, and I can see the time that it arrives is 23:43. So I need to compare these two times. I don't need to worry about the hours because the hours are the same. So I'm just doing 43 take away 27, which is going to be 16. So the answer would be D. Question 22. What percentage of £5 is 50p? One way you could do this is think, what's 1% of £5? So we would divide that by 100. That would be 5p, so that's not going to be enough. And then you could check all of them one by one and see which one works. If you don't want to do that, the better way to do it, a more efficient way, is to write it first as a fraction. So I'm going to write 50 over £5 in pence is the same as 500. And then I need to simplify this fraction, and I want to change it to a percentage eventually. So eventually I want this denominator to become 100. So what would I divide by on the bottom to get from 500 to 100? I've divided by 5 there, so I need to divide by 5 there. 50 divided by 5 would be 10, and percentages are out of 100, so that is the same as 10%. So the answer would be 10%. If you did find 10% of £5, you would get 50p. Question 23. The graph shows the weight of a baby girl in the first 8 weeks of her life. So we can see her weight in kilos is slowly going up, and we can see her age in weeks up to 8 weeks. How old was the baby at the end of the week in which she gained most weight? If we're looking for the most weight, that means we're looking for the line that is the most steep between each week. So we can see it's not going to be that first week because that one actually going down. That's quite a small increase. That's a little bit bigger. But I can see from 3 to 4 is probably the biggest. 6 to 7 is quite big, but 3 to 4 is definitely the biggest. How old was the baby at the end of the week in which she gained most weight? So the end of week 3 will be week 4, so it'll be C. Question 24. Which of these shapes is not a cuboid? So a cuboid is just a rectangle which has some depth to it. So it's got a little bit of thickness which makes it a 3D shape. So A would be considered a cuboid because we've got that rectangle and it's repeated all the way through. B would also be a cuboid because we've got a rectangle and then it's got some thickness to it. C is the same, we've got a rectangle with some thickness to it. E is also a cuboid, so D is not a cuboid. Question 25. Look at this angle. Which of the following statements is correct? Let's just think about what types of angles we have. So if I draw one angle, and any angle that starts from 0 up to 90, so maybe something like that, so up to 90 would be known as an acute angle. So it would be less than 90 degrees. So I'd write it like this, less than 90. Let's draw another type of angle. So I'm going to start this one at 90 degrees, and anything that starts at 90 and then goes up to 180, a straight line, that would be known as an obtuse angle. So any obtuse angle is between 90 and 180. The last type of angle that you need to know is if it's bigger than the obtuse, so if it's going from 180 to 360, a full turn, so anything after a straight line, so all of these would be considered as reflex angles. This angle here on the other side of the acute angle is there, that would be considered a reflex angle, and you're looking at all of the angles that are greater than 180 and less than 360. So which of the following statements is correct? So we know this one is an obtuse angle because it's more than 90. 90 would be over here, and it's less than 180. I would estimate this angle would be about maybe 110 degrees. So angle X is less than 90 degrees, that's wrong. Angle X is a right angle, that's wrong. Angle X is more than 180 degrees, that's wrong because it would be a reflex, so that's not right. D, angle X is between 90 and 180, so this one is correct because it's an obtuse. Angle X is not a straight line, so it's not E. Question 26, 105 divided by something gives me 21. What does the triangle stand for? Another way that you could think about this, let's say I had 15 divided by something gave me 5. How could you work this out? You could swap these two numbers with each other. So you could do 15 divided by 5, which would give me 3. So I'm going to do 105 divided by 21. And the way you could do this is if you write out your 21 times table up to 105, you would get there eventually. The way that I would think about this, I already know that 5 times 20 is the same as 100. So 5 times 21 will be 105. So my answer is 5. And you could just check that. If you do 21 times 5, you get 105. Question 27. A swimming pool charges £3.60 for entry, and you can save 1/3 of the entry fee with a membership card. Let's find out how much you're going to save every time you visit the swimming pool. So we're finding 1/3 of 3.6. So you're doing 3.6 divided by 3. The way I would think about this is if I did 36 divided by 3, I would get 12. So I'm going to have a 12 in there somewhere. But 3.6 divided by 3 would be 1.2. And if I multiplied that by 3, I would get 3.6. So that's correct. On his first visit, Ken spends £5 on a membership card plus a reduced entry fee. How many times does Ken visit before he gets back his £5? So we're just thinking, how many times do I need to make this saving for me to spend this £5 and this £5 be worth it? So if I did 1.2 times by 4, let's just see what that would give me. 1.2 times 4 would give me 12 times 4 is 48, so 1.2 times 4 would be 4.8. That's not enough, so I need to visit one more time for it to be worth it. 1.2 times by 5, 12 times 5 is 60, so that's going to be 6.0 or just 6. So I need to visit at least 5 times for it to be worth it. And then I get my £5 back. Question 28. A boy delivered newspapers. He was paid £1.40 for every 100 papers he delivered. How much was he paid for delivering 250 papers? So I would set this out just like a scaling ratio question. I've got £1.40 for 100 papers, and I'm trying to deliver 250 papers. So I need to think, what have I times by to get from there to there? If I times by 2, I get to 200. If I times by 3, that'll be 300. So it's going to be halfway between that, 2.5. And if you think 2.5 times 100, that would give you 250. So I need to do the same thing to this side. I'm going to times this one by 2.5. And an easy way to do that, £1.40 times by 2.5, I'm going to times it by the 2 first, and then I'll times it by this half afterwards. So I'm going to find half of 1.4. So 1.4 times 2 is 2.8, and 1.4 times by this 0.5, half of £1.40, is going to be 0.7. So my answer will be 3.5 or £3.50. Question 29, I'm doing 3.6 times 10, so my number is going to get bigger. My decimal point is going to be after the 6, so it's going to be 36. Question 30, the graph shows the population of Britain from 1700, and these populations are in millions. In which year was the population twice as much as it was in 1800? So if we look at 1800, we can see that the population here is 10 million. So we're trying to find double that population. So we're trying to find where does it reach 20 million. So I can see it reaches over here, which is halfway between 1850 and 1900. So there's 50 years between them. What's half of 50? That'd be 25. So I've got 25 years that I need to add on to this 1850. So it's going to be 1875, which is B. Question 31. A bag had 36 sweets in it. Ethan takes 2/3 of them out. How many sweets does he take out? So we're just finding 2/3 of 36. So 1/3 of 36, I divide by 3, which is 12. And 2/3, I double it, so 24. So I divide by my bottom number and then I times by my top number. The answer is 24, which would be D. Question 32. A ship travels 528 nautical miles in one day. How many nautical miles does it travel in 15 days? So here I'm just multiplying these two numbers by each other. 528 times by 15. Sometimes you can look at the answers and just see, are they quite separate to each other? Then I can just estimate what the answer would be. But because these three are quite close to each other, I need to actually work this question out. But I do know 500 times 10 is 5,000, so it's definitely not going to be A or B. So it's going to be either C, D, or E. And if I did 8 times 5, it's going to be 40, so it ends in a 0. So my answer is either going to be C or E. Let's just work it out. So 528 times by this 5 first, which would be 5 times 8 is 40. 5 times 2 is 10. 10 add 4 is 14. 5 times 5 is 25. Add the 1, which is 26. And then we've got this 1 times this 528. But remember, it's a 10. So it's 5,280. So I've got 5,280 plus 2,640. And if I add those up together, that gives me 0. 8 add 4 is 12. So I can see it's probably going to be C. 1 add 2 is 3. 3 add 6 is 9. And 5 add 2 is 7. So the answer is C. Question 33. The three numbers are alike in some ways. We've got 9, 36, and 81. So some of you might already realize what types of numbers are these. Are quite special. Select one of the following to say one way in which they are like. They are all even numbers. So 9 is not an even number. Even numbers are numbers in your 2 times table. 9 isn't in your 2 times table and 81 isn't in your 2 times table. Even numbers will always end in 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8. B, they are all two-figure numbers. Well, 9 is a two-figure number, 36 is, and 81 is, so it's not going to be that one. They are all prime numbers. Prime numbers have two unique factors. So 9 has a couple of factors. It has 1, 3, and 9. 9 can be divided by all of these, so it has more than 2. So that means it's not a prime. You can do the same thing with the other ones, and they would have more than 2 factors, so they're not prime numbers. Option D, they are all square numbers. So you might have realized if I square root 9, I get 3. If I square root 36, I get 6. And the square root of 81 is 9. So yes, they are all square numbers. So D would be correct. E, they can all be divided by 2 without a remainder. So if A isn't correct, E isn't going to be correct because they're basically testing the same thing. Question 34. Mateo's temperature is 37.5 degrees. When he was ill, it rose by 3 degrees. What was his temperature when he was ill? So we're adding these two numbers, 37.5, and we're adding 3. So you could put 3 here. If you want to put a placeholder with a 0 here, you could do that, and you add both of these up. The way that I would think about it, I would just do it on my hands. I've got 37.5, and then I would count 1, 2, 3. So 38.5, 39.5, 40.5. So the answer is E. Question 35. Put these fractions in order of size, starting with the largest first. So I've got to order all of these fractions, but the first thing that I notice is that I have different denominators, so I can't compare them yet. I need to make sure that they have same denominators first. So what is the lowest common multiple that I could change them all to? So I've got a 4, an 8, and a 2. So the lowest common multiple of all of these is going to be 8. So this one is going to stay the same, and this one will stay the same as 5 8s and 7 8s. The rest of them I'm going to need to change. So 3/4 from 4 to 8 I've times by 2, so I need to times that one by 2, that's 6 8s. From 2 to 8 I've times by 4, so 1 times 4 would be 4. And from 4 to 8 I've times by 2, so that'll be 2 8s. And now I can start comparing them. We're looking for the largest first, which would be this 7 8s, so that's first. And then the next one would be 6 8s, so that'll be second. Then the third one will be 5 8s. Then the next one will be this 4 8s. And the last one will be this 2 8s or 1/4. So I've just labeled them all up. Let's write out what it should look like. So I've got 7 8s first. and then I've got 3/4, and then I've got 5/8, and then I've got 1/2, and then I've got 1/4. Can I see this pattern appear anywhere here? So it's not going to be C because it doesn't start off with 7/8. So I need to check the next column. Where do I see 3/4? It's not there. Could be that one, but it can't be that one. Then I'm looking for 5/8. That has 5/8. That doesn't have 5/8. And then I would just check the last two. It does have 1/2. That has 1/2. That has 1/4. That has 1/4. So the answer is A. Question 36. Eva had 5 boxes and each box weighed 800 grams. How many kilograms was this altogether? Even though this question is in kilos, I'm going to first work out the question and then I'll convert it rather than convert it first, because I think it'll make it easier to convert it later rather than at the start. So I'm multiplying these two together. 5 times by 800. 5 times 8 is 40. And I have 2 zeros, so I put 2 zeros at the end. So that's 4,000 grams. And I know that 1 kilogram is the same as 1,000 grams. And the way you remember that is the word kilo, like kilometer, means 1,000. So from grams to kilograms, I need to divide by 1,000. So I'm dividing this by 1,000, getting rid of these 3 zeros, which is 4 kilograms. So the answer for this one would be A. Question 37. What is 3 squared? Squared just means you're timesing by itself, so 3 times 3 would be 9. Question 38. There were 27 children in a class and there were twice as many boys as girls. How many boys were there? So this question is actually testing you on your ratio. So let's first write a ratio of boys to girls. And it says twice as many boys as girls, so it's 2 to 1. And there's 27 altogether. So how many parts are there altogether? We've got 2 parts of boys and we've got 1 part of girls. So altogether, if we add these two together, we get 3 parts. And that's equal to how many people we have altogether. So that's 27. Let's find out 1 part so we can work out the rest of the question. So on the left hand side, from 3 to 1, I've divided by 3 there. So I'm going to divide by 3 there, which gives me 9. If I times both of these by 9 now, I can find out how many boys and girls there are. 2 times 9 is 18, and 1 times 9 is 9. And if I added both of those up together, I get 27. So that means I've done it correctly. For the question, I only care about the boys. So I'm just looking at the 18, and there are 18 boys. Question 39. What is 60% of 50? There's a couple of ways that you could do this, but the way that I would suggest is I would find 10% first, because that's quite an easy percentage to find. I just divide 50 by 10, which gives me 5. And then I'm trying to get to 60%. On the left hand side of times by 6. On the right hand side, I'll times by 6, so it gives me 30. Question 40. Look at the diagram. We've got multiples of 4, 8 and 4, which are multiples of 4. And we've got multiples of 3, 6 and 3, which are multiples of 3. And then we've got this 5 on the outside, which doesn't match up with either of them. In the middle, where these diagonal lines go, where this shaded section is, they're going to be multiples of 4 and 3. So that might be something like 12 or 24 or 36. Which of the following numbers could go in the shaded section? So 9 is only a multiple of 3, so that would go there. B, 12, it is a multiple of 4 because 4, 8, 12, and it is a multiple of 3, 3, 6, 9, 12, so that would work. 15 would go over here. If you had to put it in, 16 would just go over here, and 18, it's a multiple of 3, so that would go there. Question 41. Work out this Roman numeral multiplied by this Roman numeral. Let's convert this first. X's mean 10, so I've got 10, add another 10, and VI, so the 5 is before the 1, so that means I'm adding them together, so plus 5 plus 1, and that would be 26. For this one, I've got a 10, and then I've got a 50 after it, which is quite important, and then I've got a 1. So first thing I need to do here is, because I've got the 10 before the 50, I need to do 50, take away 10 first, which is 40, and 40 add 1, which would be 41. Let's multiply these two numbers together. So I'm going to put the bigger one on the top and 26 on the bottom. 6 times by 1 is 6. 6 times by 4 is 24. This 2 is a 20, so I put a 0 down first. 2 times 1 is 2, 2 times 4 is 8. Just adding them up, so I get 6, 6, and 10. And for those of you who are good at history, this is quite an important year, 1066. But we just need to convert this into Roman numerals. So first thing that I'm going to consider is, what is this made up out of? I've got 1000, and then I've got a 50, and I've got a 10, and a 5, and a 1. And that would give me 1066. So 1000 is represented with M, 50 is L, 10 is X, 5 is a V, and 1 is I. So it matches up with B. Question 42. Which letter is pointing at 1250? Let's just work out, what is this middle number? We've got 1200 here and 1400 here. So that would be 1300. So if we're looking for the number halfway between both of those, it's going to be halfway in distance as well. So that would be B. Another way you could do it is think about how many gaps between 1200 and 1400. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 200 between them. So you would do 200 divided by 4, which is 50. And that tells you at each of these lines, you're adding on 50 from the previous one. Question 43. A frog starts jumping from the middle of a circular pond. The pond is 12 meters across from one side to another. So let's just draw that out. I've got a circular pond, and it's 12 meters across from one side to the other. And the frog starts jumping towards the edge of the pond. And the frog is in the center of the pond. So the frog is over here. Each jump is in the same direction. Each jump halves his distance from the edge of the pond. How far is the frog after the jump? How far is the frog from the edge after 3 jumps? So right now, he's in the middle of the pond. So that means he is 6 meters away. He's 6 meters away from the edge. And we're looking to make 3 jumps. So if he makes 1 jump, that's going to be half of 6, which is 3. So that means he's going to be on 3 meters now. And then if he makes another jump, he's going to take half off of that. So then he's going to do 1.5. 3 take away 1.5 is 1.5. And then he's going to jump one more time. Half of 1.5 is 0.75. So 0.75 meters. So we're looking for 0.75 meters. But if we look at all of these answers, none of these are 0.75 meters. So I can see that this one looks a little bit similar. Let's just check that. 1 meter is the same as 100 centimeters. So to convert that, I just need to multiply by 100. So yeah, that would be correct. So it would be B. Question 44. Zach starts with the number 5. Which of these instructions does not give him an answer of 17? So with a question like this, because we're having to check all of them, I would normally start at the end. Sometimes you might be unlucky and it might be the first one, but I would normally just start at the end because they might put it around E or D. So let's start with E first. 5 times by 10 is 50. 50 take away 16 is 34. 34 divided by 2 is 17. So that one is right. 5 add 3 is 8. 8 times by 2 is 16. So that one is wrong. So it would be D. Let's just check the other ones just in case. 5 times by 3, 15. Add 2 is 17, so that one would work. 5 times by 4 is 20. 20 take away 3, that is 17. 5 divided by 2 is 2.5. 2.5 add 6, 8.5. And double 8.5 is 17, so that one works. So the answer is definitely D. Question 45. This chart shows the weather for 12 hours on one day. How many hours was it dry? So it was dry when it was cloudy and when it was sunny. So we need to find out how much is those two parts. That part, the cloudy part, is half of the circle, half of the pie chart. So it's going to be half of 12, which is 6 hours. Then this part here, the rainy and the sunny, will also be 6 hours, but we need to find out what is this split up into. The way that I would think about this is if I had a clock with 12 over here, that would be 1 and that would be 2. So there's going to be 2 hours here. You could think of this as 2/12 or 1/6 of the pie chart. So we're finding 1/6 of 12 hours, which is just 2. So we're doing 2 add 6, which would be 8. Question 46. Put the correct number in the box. We've got 27 times by 99 equals 2,700 take away something. So we've got to try and figure out what's the pattern here. So 27 times 99 is kind of close to 27 times by 100. And that would give me 2,700. So if I just change that very slightly, I get 2,700. But if I do 27 times by 99, it's going to be that minus one of these, because it's my 27 times table, but I've gone down by one. So I need to take away 27. So my answer here would be A. Question 47. The chart shows the proportions of children in a class who go to school using various forms of transport. There are no numbers along the y-axis, but we know that there are 28 children in the class in total. So let's just think, what is each box worth? So we need to count how many boxes are there shaded altogether. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So 14 boxes altogether. 14 boxes is equal to 28 children. So how much is each box worth? So if I divide this by 14, one box, and I divide this by 14, I get 2, so 2 children. So I can think of each of these shaded boxes as 2. So the amount of students that took the bicycle would be 6, 2, 4, 6. For bus, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. That would be 2, that would be 6, and that would be 4. Obviously in a test you wouldn't work out all of these, but you would just think which ones are useful for you. Which form of transport is taken by a total of 4 children? So we're looking for 2 boxes shaded in, which would be walking. So my answer would be E. Question 48. Ali and his sister share pizza cut into 6 equal slices. Ali eats a third of all of the pieces. So let's just think what would happen if I take out a third. What is 1/3 of 6? So 6 divided by 3 is 2. So Ali is going to eat that much. So I have 4 slices remaining. His sister eats 1/4 of the remaining pieces. So 1/4 of 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1. So she's just eaten 1 slice. After both Ali and his sister have eaten, what fraction of the pizza is left? So I can see I've got 3 slices left out of the total of 6, which is the same as, you should spot this as 1/2, but if you don't, both of these divide by 3, so that would be 1/2. So that would be B. Question 49. Instructions for roasting meat. Cook for 30 minutes at 230 degrees. Turn down the heat to 180 degrees and allow 30 minutes cooking time for every 450 grams. A piece of meat takes 2.5 hours altogether to cook. How heavy is it? So the first thing that we need to think about is every piece of meat will need at least 30 minutes. So we can take away 30 minutes from there, and half of an hour is 30 minutes. So we're just thinking about these 2 hours. We need to spend 30 minutes for every 450 grams. So 30 mins is equal to 450 grams, and we're trying to scale it up to 2 hours. On the left hand side, how do we go from 30 minutes to 2 hours? Well, I know 2 hours is the same as 120 minutes, or you could just think I need to double it twice. So doubling twice is the same as timesing by 4. So I've times by 4 there, I'm going to times by 4 there. It's the same as doubling twice, so 45 doubled is 90, 90 doubled is 180, so it's going to be 1,800, that's in grams. All of these are in kilos, so remember what I said before, kilometer and kilogram both start with kilo, so 1,000 grams is the same as 1 kilogram. I need to divide by 1,000, so my decimal point is going to move 1, 2, 3 to 1.8. So my answer is 1.8 kilos, which would be C. Question 50. To make brown paint, you mix 2 parts red, 70 parts yellow, and 1 part blue. How much red paint is needed to make 40 litres of brown paint? So the first thing that I would need to do is write this as a ratio. So I've got red, yellow, and blue. So red to yellow to blue, and it's in the ratio 2 to 17 to 1. And let's just think, if we had 2 litres and 17 litres and 1 litre, how much would that make? if we added up all of those, that would give us 20 litres. But we don't want to make 20 litres, we want to make 40 litres. So what should we do? We'll multiply those by 2, so we're going to multiply everything here by 2, but really we just need the red paint, so I'm going to times that one by 2, which would be 4. If you had to do the other ones, it would be 34 and 2, but the number that we care about is this 4. So we need 4 litres of the red paint to make 40 litres of brown paint. That's the end of the questions today. What I'd recommend you do is go through the paper and write down all of the topics that you struggle with before attempting another past paper, and start to revise them before you attempt another one. Have a look through my channel for other past papers, including more walkthroughs for other 11+ papers. I'll see you soon.